Hello and welcome to Muppetsational, the Muppet Show podcast, hosted by three huge Muppet fans. Join us each week as we dive into an episode of Jim Henson's classic variety show, now finally available on Disney+. This week, it's Season 1, Episode 16, starring the madcap and mustachioed Avery Schreiber. It's time to get things started on the chronological, explorational, conversational Muppetsational! Woo! Yay! Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Muppetsational. I'm Lewis Chandler.
I'm Jade Turner.
And I'm Emma Chandler.
And we are here this week, as we are every week, to discuss another episode of The Muppet Show. Jade, why don't you hit us up with a little production information?
Of course. So, this episode was originally broadcast on the 12th of December, 1976. The production code lists it as the 16th episode made, and therefore Disney Plus have included it as episode 16. And it was written by Avery Schreiber's comedy partner, Jack Burns, Mark London, Jim Henson, and Jerry Jaw. And it was directed by Peter Harris. Emma, please enlighten us about the the life and times
as
of
to who
Avery
this
Schreiber.
weirdo is.
As Jade mentioned earlier, Avery was part of a comedy double with Jack Burns, who is a producer, writer of The Muppet Show. He's an actor and comedian, and actually he met Jack whilst they were both members of the improv troupe Second City in Chicago, which is quite interesting. And they performed on a variety of shows, for example, the Ed Sullivan Show, the Dean Martin Show, all those kind of like TV talk show variety shows. He was in a few sort of sitcoms and a couple of films. And also, he was the spokesman and face of Doritos in the 1970s and 1980s. Woo!
What in God's name? If there was... God, that would put... I did not like Avery Schreiber. I think I'm just gonna say that right from the off. And I don't like the idea that he's tainting delicious Doritos. I don't... Get away from my delicious tangy cheese snack. Oh, of course he was an improv comedian. Oh, you can smell us a mile off. Actually, I'm proud to no longer be an improv comedian. We all did it at university. Well, some of us did. It's the lowest of the arts.
Personally, I think when improv is done well, it can be pretty spectacular. But I think that it does quite often fall into the same tropes and repeated kind of cliches that make it just very predictable and not particularly engaging if it's not done well.
It also breeds a lot of this exact type of heterosexual man, which we need them to die out. They need to be. They must be stopped. Oh, well, I don't want to sort of, show my opinion for this episode too quickly, but we should dive on in for the sake of fairness, although my first note, what does it say here? It says, ugh, I don't like his vibe. And that was from just the clip where they cut to Avery Schreiber in the opening titles with the other Muppets.
I was kind of intrigued by that cutaway because I feel like with a lot of the other guests that we've had, you have had a really, really strong indication of exactly what they're going to bring to the episode. But with that one, I wasn't sure, to be honest. Like I was a bit like, oh, that looks like he's done a song, which I wasn't expecting. And then I don't know, like maybe you got more of a vibe from it than I did, Lewis, because I just found, I was a bit like, I'm not sure what I'm getting myself into at this point. This wasn't what I was necessarily expecting from Avery Schreiber.
Mine went from an unsure no to a very secure no by the end of the episode. I don't want to be judgmental. I feel like I'm taking Emma's slot as being the judgmental one. Emma, what was your first impression of Avery Schreiber?
I don't know. He kind of had like improv, kind of fool guy. I don't know. It was like that character shtick, if you know what I mean. It just seemed quite kind of... it's aged quite a lot, hasn't it? His character just seemed a bit strange. Like you say, you didn't really know where it was going to go when you saw like the opening shot. Like you didn't get a sense of who he was or like what kind of line he was going to take in terms of like performance.
Do you know what he reminded me of? Have both of you seen the Tina Fey, Amy Poehler film Sisters?
I've seen bits of it. I've never seen it the whole way through.
Fair. It's fine. It's an easy enough watch. But Bobby Moynihan plays a character in it where he is basically like a really try-hard wannabe comedian. And that is exactly the vibe that I was getting from Avery Schreiber. Emma, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, like the guy who's like, it's improv or it's an impression. That guy, wasn't it? Where he's like messing around a lot or like trying to do bits to get people to laugh and everyone's a bit like, yeah.
Yeah, he just felt exhausting to me. I'm so sorry. But, let's actually jump into the episode because I realise we're talking about one clip. After the opening titles, we go straight to a performance from a band we haven't seen properly perform for a few episodes. Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem.
Yeah, it was really nice to see them actually, although I did kind of think that, again, with the song, they were kind of doing the same thing that they always do, where they come on and Dr. Teeth was like, yeah, we're going to sing this really tenderly, and the song's called Tenderly, and then they start shouting and like Animal's hitting the drums really hard and it all goes a bit chaotic, and I know like that's their whole kind of thing, which is funny, but I don't know, because we haven't had an opening like this for a while, I was a bit nonplussed about it. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
I quite enjoyed it, but I do know what you mean just in terms of it being like, is very much in the Electric Mayhem's wheelhouse. I don't think we were sort of testing anything here. I found the editing of it really frenetic. Like, it was really quickly cutting back and forth between the three setups that we had. So Animal, Dr. Teeth, and then the others at the front. And actually, like, I kept getting distracted because they were all jumping around so much. I don't know if you both noticed, but the set was actually, like, wobbling a bit because the Muppets were going so mental. And that was making me laugh because I'm guessing that was sort of a unintended consequence of Janet and Zoot and Floyd going crazy at the front. But yeah, the whole set was actually sort of like, I don't know, it did looked a little bit shoddy, but it was quite fun, just them yelling tenderly and sort of going for it. I think you're right, Emma, like some of the openings recently have been really, really strong, and I feel like this was a little bit more middling of an opening.
It felt very familiar, didn't it? It wasn't anything that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I mean,
although
I was just going to say the whole vibe and his act, it reminded me very much of like the Roof Buzzy episode, like their physical comedy playing a bit, and obviously we're going to talk about it a bit more when we go into his sketches, but I sort of had like Harvey Korman vibes as well, although he like reacted a bit better to Sweetums in like that Sir Avery of Macho skit. But I don't know, it kind of felt like you said, Jade, a bit of a like more of a middling episode than what we've seen previously.
Oh, sorry, you mean generally. I thought you would just jump straight on out of boredom from talking about Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem. It's like, we're done here, let's move on. Emma's trying to get this episode in at a tight 30 minutes.
I was saying that I felt like the opening was middling, but I do think this again, not to show our hand too early, but there were certainly ups and downs with this episode on the whole.
That was the phrase I was looking for, show our hand. I have been looking for that phrase for like weeks, and I'm not. And every time I try and come to say it, I'm like, show our load? Like every time it just comes back to loads. I don't know why.
God.
One thing I will say, I don't know if it was just from a factor of having not seen them properly for a couple of weeks. They're such gorgeous puppets, Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem. They're so gorgeously finessed and detailed, and how each of them operates a little differently. The way Dr. Teeth's hands extend, and obviously the puppeteering is covered by his shaggy coat, and I love the way that they get so many dings off his gold tooth in that proper like 1970s glare on the camera. It's so good, and it feels so right for them, and so specifically 70s as well because of how it reacts within the camera. I just love those puppets. There you go, there's the pull quote. I just love those puppets.
His eyebrows were going crazy this week as well, I noticed. Like, just everything. It was really nice to see them because we haven't seen them in a couple of weeks. But I would like to see them maybe get something a little bit meatier to get Dr. Teeth's gold tooth stuck into.
Oh,
you know?
Good grief. Speaking of bad jokes, let's move on to the backstage
Thanks,
runner.
Lewis.
Look, it was a link that was right there. I couldn't resist it. So I've got to say, I was very happy to see Piggy laying into my nemesis, Scooter. Piggy knows what's up. She's just calling him a bonehead.
I loved it when she turned to camera and was like, he's an amusing little twit, isn't he?
I know.
Like, it was so like...
It was like we were watching Fleabag. Yeah. I was like, oh. Phoebe Waller-Pig.
That would be pretty great. A Fleabag with Miss Piggy in the lead.
Yeah, that would be great. And she would learn nothing.
No.
There would be no sort of coming to terms with herself. She would just be like, no, all of these people are wrong. You could call it Pigpen instead of Fleabag. I would absolutely watch that. There you go, Disney Plus. Have that for free.
There's one for you.
There's one for you. You're welcome. Have the dumpster truck of money driven up my drive. Yes. Thank you.
I didn't mind this runner. Like, it's definitely not my favourite or anything, but I quite enjoyed that we got to see Piggy in a runner again. I also liked that it crossed over with not only some of the sort of backstage Muppets like Scooter, but also with the host, that the whole thing was that Piggy was colluding with the host, and then also that it did go on to the onstage business as well. Like, I thought it was actually quite well structured in that regard, and it did make the episode flow quite nicely.
That's true. I think I just found the entire setup and premise a bit dull, if I'm honest. It just felt like such familiar territory and nothing particularly Muppety about it or given a Muppety twist. And frankly, I feel like Miss Piggy could do better than Avery Schreiber, so...
Well, she can. She's just using him, Lewis.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't want to be with him.
She should be using one of the more handsome guests. I'm sorry. Or even just... He was so, like, sweaty. He had such a, like, Saturday Night Live 1970s cocaine vibe to him. Like...
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm being so aggressively, like... indifferent to Avery Schreiber. I will try and not let it influence my decision. I'm lying.
Emma, what did you think of the runner?
Yeah, I mean, again, a bit like we said, it was okay. It probably wasn't one of the like best ones that we've seen, and it did feel like we were kind of going over familiar territory. But, you know, it was quite good to kind of see like Piggy getting her own back on Scooter a bit, which was quite fun to see, and her interaction again with Kermit kind of not quite knowing where she stood and like being like, right, this is what I'm going to do to sort it out. So yeah, I thought it was fun, and you know, I think it kind of like met the level of the episode that we saw, I think, to be honest.
And Jade, you are right from a structural standpoint, purely on a writing side. The way that it was weaved through the episode and in different places, it's definitely well, not necessarily an improvement, but definitely a development from when sometimes the onstage and offstage action has either felt completely separate or not connected in any sort of through line. So yeah, that part of it I do appreciate.
And it also, you know, wasn't particularly pun heavy or anything either. You know, it was the jokes were coming from their interactions with each other, weren't they? I just feel a bit like maybe from this perspective, watching it now, it does feel quite old hat because it's Piggy and Kermit, and it's Piggy trying to use another male to make Kermit jealous, and that is obviously something we've seen hundreds of times at this point.
It's like when you go back to watch a TV show that you really love where like for 5 seasons it's will they, won't they? And you're like, but I know they will. So why is all these obstacles getting in the way? Just get Ben and Leslie together already. I don't need to have their jobs threatened by Rob Lowe. Like, just get on with it.
Thinking about when this was obviously first shown, Miss Piggy was a brand new character, and this was a whole new concept. Like, I'm not saying that it probably didn't still feel quite traditional, because obviously they were totally using the cliches of books, TV shows, movies, as they have been forever, theatre. But at the same time, like, you would not have seen Piggy and Kermit do this before. So I don't know, like I feel like I have to give it a bit of slack just because it wasn't pun based. It did weave nicely through the episode, and I felt like it did help the episode move along, because actually a lot of the sketches were very disparate, but I did feel like the episode was kind of cohesive, and I think it's because of the backstage business and Piggy and Kermit.
Let's move on to one of those disparate sketches. I've called it the Gladiator sketch. I am not sure what its formal name was. Has anybody looked on Muppet Wiki?
I think it was just called Sir Avery of Macho.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying not to lead the witness for the prosecution or whatever they say. Emma, what did you think of this sketch?
Like I kind of said before, I did have Harvey Korman vibes of when he did his ringmaster bit, but I do think that Avery Schreiber did play it better. Like, he obviously used his kind of comedy chops a bit more, and I thought his interaction with Sweetums was better. But to be completely honest, it was quite a random sketch. And when it first started, I was a bit like, I don't really know where this is going. And then when Sweetums came down from the top of the moor, as he was the monster of the moor, and they were like facing off, I was like, oh, okay. And then it kind of turned into like an insult joke, war of the words.
It was a reading challenge from Drag Race.
Yeah.
It was very bizarre.
It was like, oh, okay, so this is where we're going with this. So yeah, it was quite a random kind of square off between the two of them. I mean, I don't know what you guys thought.
It's funny you said when it started, I didn't know where this was going, because actually seeing that rocky, craggy backdrop and Kermit in reporter mode, I wondered if we were going back to the planet Kuzblain to have another alien nature documentary. And then actually it was even more strange than that. And Kermit felt entirely superfluous. I do not know why he was there.
No, I don't understand why Kermit was there either, because other than, I guess, essentially setting up that there was going to be this big showdown, I think he only made like one or two more comments that were literally just that. He was just commenting on what was going on. He didn't add anything to the actual story or give you any more context or anything. He was just repeating what was already happening. He totally did not need to be there. There was no reason for Kermit to be there. They could have even just had a sort of veterinarian's hospital style voiceover sort of announcing, I guess in that sort of, I thought he looked almost like Centurion like, but like in a sort of gladiator Centurion boxing way. I don't know, it could have been like Sir Avery of Macho versus the monster of the moor, and that would have been enough.
Like a medieval times restaurant.
Yes.
You just have it coming over the speaker while somebody's delivering you potatoes.
Oh my god, you have immediately made this sketch better. Right, so what you need is tables at the front, like they did for the Joel Grey, was that Vilkerman, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, so you need tables at the front with like Piggy, Gonzo, Scooter, whoever sat there having a medieval times meal, and then this is going on in the background, but the Muppets, because it's really rubbish, are paying no attention to it, and they do not care. and actually then you could play on Avery Schreiber like mugging to the camera so much, because then he could be desperately trying to get everyone's attention, and they're just like chowing down on their medieval times banquet. That would be so much funnier than whatever this was.
And it would give a reason for them to shift from maybe being traditional gladiator fighting into then two actors who work at a medieval times style restaurant throwing insults at each other, and then Miss Piggy and Kermit and co could get more engaged because they're like, oh, these two actors in this restaurant we're at are fighting. And then when one of them breaks down, they could be like, bravo! God, that is already so much better.
That would be so funny compared to what this is. The one thing I did quite enjoy about this was that they seem to be quite bold with the set and with
It was a lovely set.
The staging. We haven't seen anything like that, where we had Sweetums starting up the top on the moor and then coming down. It felt expansive for the Muppet Show, didn't it? When we're quite often dealing in close-up because of the Muppets' nature, and I did enjoy that they really made the most of the fact that Sweetums is a big Muppet, and you can sort of play on that level. But then, I just also felt like it went on for so long, like it just never ended.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Emma, when you mentioned Harvey Korman's circus sketch, which obviously opened his episode, I have to say, if I was given a choice between the two, I'd probably much rather watch the Harvey Korman one again.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I feel like Avery Schreiber committed more I just feel, I mean, Lewis, I realise that you're not vibing with him, which is totally fine. But like, I feel like he did actually, as you said, Emma, there's something of the Ruth Buzzy in him. Like, I think he found a kindred spirit in the Muppets, and there was a commitment there that I think was completely lacking from the Harvey Korman episode. The most we got from him was him just dressed up in a chicken suit. That was kind of the level of commitment he was at. I did feel like Avery was more on board with it. But I just, even with this, like the fact that the final punchline was calling out Jack Burns and their comedy duo, and then we sort of mentioned in the Bruce Forsyth episode that there hasn't been that many like pop culture references, but actually finishing with the punch that Sweetums prefers Starsky and Hutch to Jack Burns and Avery Schreiber, that just felt so dated.
It did,
and
didn't
so
it?
like, oh my god, like I don't know, like, I can't relate to that at all because, like, I just don't care about Starsky and Hutch, and I also don't know you as a comedy duo. Like, you know, this is...
It was very odd.
Oh.
Yeah. It just, I mean, it's the risk whenever you do a pop culture reference, isn't it? About what is really going to,
last the test of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, for every, reference The Simpsons makes to Alfred Hitchcock films, which still feel funny, you've got them making hackneyed jokes about like The Bachelor, and it's a bit, you know, it's the risk you take.
The other thing I noticed, and it was the first time that I have really noticed this, was Sweetums. Let me get the right arm now. One of Sweetums' arms stayed down by his side the whole time. Nobody was puppeteering it, basically.
What?
So he was only ever moving one arm.
Well, would that not be because the puppeteer's other arm would be operating the head?
Eyes and the mouth, and yeah. But I think when we've seen him before, I think they've had a second puppeteer, obviously somewhere, controlling the other arm. But this time Sweetum's arm was firmly by his side. It did not move at all. Fine, fair enough, but it just felt a little bit like he's meant to be getting in a fight and he's not even using both his arms. Like, that was like, okay, great, wonderful.
It's like in the I'm only saying this because Peter and I were watching it last night. It's like when Madonna broke her arm in 2005, but she still had to shoot the hung up video, and so they just tuck her arm into that leather jacket. So it's like, just strut down the street, it'll be fine. Nobody will question that one arm that's not doing anything, and it's so rigidly set in place, and once you notice it, you can't unsee it. I'll always find a way to bring it back to Madonna somehow. Did either of you genuinely gasp when the gorilla popped up from behind Emma Rat? Because I gasped, and I don't know why, because so obviously a gorilla was going to come, but I reacted like it was that scene in Twin Peaks where, like, Bob comes over the sofa. I was just...
Oh my goodness. I wasn't really like that. The only thing I thought about, and this is probably just because it's me, I was a bit worried when he started ripping the computers up, and then you saw, like, the 70s, like, of special effects start going off, and I was like, oh my god, he's so close to, like, being set alight from the, like, dodgy 70s pyro. I was, like, concerned.
Emma, whoever that was, I know was fine. They were probably having a cigarette between takes where they only took the head off, and just the rest of the gorilla body was just, ready to light up.
I don't know, though, because, sorry, this is a real tangent, but you just saying that's made me remember the other week I was reading, I'm so sorry, I'm blanking on the actor's name, but the actor who played Cousin It in the original Addams Family passed away recently, and I was reading in the obituary about how originally the Cousin It, all of the hair was, like, completely flammable because they were using natural hair. So, and obviously, like, all of the cast and crew were, like, smoking as they would have been.
Because 1960s.
Consistently between takes. And yeah, they had to change the Cousin It costume to be synthetic so that it could be flame retardant. And so, I mean, I just would not be 100% certain that gorilla costume wouldn't have gone up in a second, because, this is the 70s. Like, people just didn't think about these things. They were still very busy putting asbestos in everything, like, it was a different time. So yeah, it's a good point, Emma. I hadn't thought of that. When I saw the gorilla, I was like, oh, here we go. I was like, right, what's happening? And then when he started wrecking Emrak, I was like, oh, right, wonderful. That research grant's really going to good use here, I see. Like, I think I was just so distracted by Dr. Bunsen taking everything so seriously and talking about the heartbreak of a gorilla invasion, and that, have you ever woken up in the night and thought, is there a gorilla in the room, or whatever it was he was saying? I was just like, what are you on? Oh God.
It was very bizarre, but I did enjoy it, and I was also just quite impressed that they smashed up that very nice looking computer set.
I know.
I wonder what next time we cut back to Muppet Labs, what kind of rinky-dink operation they're going to have behind them. Because they destroyed it with the man in the gorilla outfit. They're just going to have like a ham radio in the corner and one of those balls that has like the static electricity coming off of it.
I don't think they can afford that, Lewis. That's probably quite expensive.
I suppose so. Maybe they could just borrow one from the top of the pop set or something. I'm sure they're shooting nearby.
Oh, yeah, it was like, I way preferred this to the Sir Avery of Macho sketch.
Oh, for sure.
100% take Dr. Bunsen just making insane creations and believing in them 100%. He was so adamant that man wasn't in a gorilla suit, because otherwise his wonderful creation would have been sounding the alarm.
I suppose technically,
it wasn't a gorilla.
It wasn't a gorilla. It's a man in a gorilla outfit. Although then it did alarm itself anyway at the end. So either way, it's completely buggered. Like, it's just, there's no way that you can make it work.
I don't know why I was surprised at it, but when the gorilla picked up the gorilla head thing, I was surprised to see the wire coming out of the back of it, and then that kind of made me realise how much we're used to not seeing wires in things anymore. And like that, I know that sounds such a small thing, but I was like, oh, it's plugged in. Like it's not running off its, I don't know, like it's not battery powered or whatever. Like it's a mains powered operation here.
Do you know what? I hadn't considered that at all. I didn't think about
No, I
that.
clocked the wire as well, Jade, because when he picked it up to throw it, it was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
It's going to pull it out of the socket.
Exactly, you're going to have to pull it out the wall first.
That gorilla's going to throw it, and then it's just going to catch in the middle of the air and then smack back and hit him in the face.
Another great ending for the sketch.
Options. We are giving so many options. We should be in this writer's room, for goodness sake.
Screw you, Jack Burns.
You and your partner can go to hell. Last thing, the gorilla alarm looked so much like Donkey Kong's face. And I don't know when Donkey Kong was created, but it was uncanny. Uncanny.
I'm going to check.
Although, briefly at first, I did think it looked like a dinosaur. And then when they said gorilla, I was like, oh yeah, obviously.
Donkey Kong was only released in 1981. So maybe that machine inspired Donkey Kong, because they were identical, in my opinion.
It was so similar. It wasn't even just sort of like, oh, it's like, that's Donkey Kong. Oh, now I just want to play Mario Kart.
Later, Lewis, later.
But I want to play it now.
No, we have to talk about Avery Schreiber now.
But I don't want to. My favourite one was always the Donkey Kong. Do you remember, Emma? It's the one where it's like Donkey Kong has like a jungle, but you jump over like a paddle steamer, and there's a big cannon that shoots you up to the top of his island, and then you drive through. And I feel like there's a volcano bit as well.
Oh, yeah.
Is this ringing any bells?
Kind of.
Is this because Lewis never let you get a look in, Emma?
Well, we didn't actually have the Nintendo 64. Our cousins had it, so we only played it round theirs. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have got a Nintendo.
We had a PlayStation.
Yeah, we had a PlayStation.
And four games. One of which,
yes, that was the
two
same.
of which were ostensibly the same game. One was Crazy Taxi, and the other one was Simpsons Road Rage, which is the same game, but just with a different, skin
with a
over
Simpsons
it.
overlay.
Yeah, overlay, yeah.
We had a Rugrats game, which had a really fantastic Crazy Golf mini game option on the end of it that I used to like playing. had a Mickey Mouse game that I was terrible at. I don't think I ever got past the first level.
Oh my god, Emma, you used to have a PlayStation Charlie's Angels game.
I did, yes.
What?
It was really crap.
Oh my god.
It was bad.
Oh no.
It was really boring, unfortunately.
You always got to like one level and you just couldn't get past it. And then do you remember when we had like that Toy Story one and you got to a certain point again and you could never get past it?
It was the Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, I think we had that
Lightyear
one
and
too.
we could never get past. It was the construction site. Never got past the construction site. That was about the furthest we ever got. Aggravating.
I remember the Toy Story one. I used to get stuck on that too. I've always been terrible at video games though. I've never put in the time, I don't think. Oh, we also had a racing game and we did have a steering wheel for it, but it basically didn't work. So like whatever you were doing on the steering wheel, you were basically going in like the opposite direction or whatever. I just remember, this is what I always say now if I ever see a car going the wrong way, the voiceover man on the thing just yelling at me going, "Wrong way! Wrong way!" Which was what I was doing most of the time.
Very good.
Oh well.
Anyway, back to this blame episode. No, there's not really much more to say about the backstage skit, apart from I do love when Jim Henson does a little Kermit face wobble.
Yeah.
When he moves his digits to sort of convex or like bulge out his face to react.
Yeah.
It's just such a lovely little feature of Kermit that, you know, comes from, I guess, puppeteering for a long time. To think that just doing that can really add another level of emotion and reaction into what is ostensibly a hand in a sock. It's very cool.
He also did a really lovely sheesh at the end of that little bit in between Muppet Labs and the museum sketch as well, which exasperated Kermit is a great Kermit.
Let's talk about the museum sketch. What did you guys think of this?
I really enjoyed this. Like, this was probably one of the better points of the episode to me. I liked the fact that it was ostensibly silent. You know, I liked the fact that we didn't have any dialogue or anything. It was pure visual, physical comedy. And I thought it was really nice to see Fozzie getting involved in a sketch like this without any punning, without any sad sack, without any, oh, I'm getting kicked off the show or whatever. Like, it was just Fozzie participating in a sketch as, I guess, to take it back to the start of the episode, like almost like as a member of an improv group or whatever. And I suppose we also got this at the end when Avery went on stage with Fozzie, but they were just interacting like a comedy duo, weren't they? Like, they played it really nicely, I felt like. And I know it's quite predictable and it didn't reinvent the wheel in any way, but it was just quite fun to see them interacting and playing in that way. Emma, what did you think?
I agree with you, Jade, actually. I thought it was quite sweet, and Fozzie in the frame, like all his little actions and movements I thought they were quite good, actually. And then
they were adorable.
They were so cute.
Were so cute.
And when Avery works out what's going on, and then he kind of grabs a sandwich to try and start eating it, and then he ends up in the frame with him, and they had their little fight, and then they make up. Rolf comes along, and they both freeze, and then he like drops his fork or whatever it was, and then they both take the food and then kind of freeze again. I thought it was quite cute. It was a cute bit, as they say. Cute bit in some of the episodes we've seen previously. So yeah, I agree. I think it was quite a good sketch.
I wanted it to be a little bit sharper, because the thing that really makes a sketch like that sing, particularly one that has no dialogue and it's all done in reactions, the timing has to be so on it. And obviously, I understand that whoever's puppeteering Fozzie is watching what is happening from a monitor, so there might be a potential delay. And actually, nothing that Fozzie did I really had a problem with. It was just Avery.
Yeah, I was going to say, I found Fozzie's timing really, really good, because I watched the episode twice, and when I watched it the second time, I made sure that I wasn't taking any notes or anything. I just watched it. And I felt like Fozzie's timing and the way that I'm assuming Frank Oz was puppeteering him for this. And I thought he did a really good job, because like it almost looked to me like he was playing it so that like Fozzie was trying to stay still, but then at certain moments was failing to stay still, even when he actually wasn't supposed to be moving. But like that was the character, that was Fozzie who was still not being the great comedian. But actually the timing, I felt from Fozzie's point of view was really fantastic. Like, he was stopping as soon as Avery was turning round. The movements were sort of in keeping with how much he would actually be able to move without being caught. But I think you're right. I think Avery was maybe a little bit sloppy.
Yeah, messy.
Yeah.
Particularly once he got inside the frame. He didn't pause at all when Rolf appeared. And that's the point. Like, that's the shtick. And the escalation is meant to be, oh no, now 2 people are in the frame having to freeze and trying to grab a sandwich. I just felt like he was doing his own thing, or just, wasn't sharp enough. Not how I wanted it. I would have been like a taskmaster, just getting him to do it again.
Maybe this was the best. Maybe they did do it like 10 times already, Lewis, and this was just the best, and they were like, right, no, that's fine, we all need to go home now.
Avery has some cocaine to have for dinner. I need to make it clear that I do not know for sure that Avery Schreiber ever took cocaine, so I'm just saying alleged. I'm just saying I would assume.
I did like that it was Rolf that came in at the end as well, though, because Rolf's so chilled and laid back that having him be the kind of foil at the end there was, I don't know, it added to the sort of adorableness of Fozzie, that then it was like Rolf just looking around and just like, what's happened? Where's my sandwich gone? Where's my apple gone? Like, it was perfect Muppet casting from that point of view, I think.
It was.
Whereas, Piggy would have been karate chopping the painting, I would imagine, or something.
She would have punched through the frame and then eaten her sandwich. And then we have the goddamn ballroom sketch.
Ugh. Other than the animal boogieing bit, I didn't really enjoy any of these puns. What did you both think?
Shout out to my favourite chorus girl when asked, do you practice meditation? No, sedation. I was like, that's my girl!
I was going to say, when I saw that, I thought you'd like that bit.
Any joke about somebody in show business popping pills to deal with the trappings of fame, I love. It's very Valley of the Dolls. Sparkle, Neely, sparkle!
I feel like she was responding specifically around how she was dealing with Animal, repeatedly still throwing her on the floor every episode. She's just like, yes, sedation, that's it.
Maybe she should try and mash a couple of those sedatives into whatever Animal feeds on. What does he eat? 2x4s? Like, just metal chains?
I assume he eats cymbals. Like,
God.
The drums
Jade,
sustain him.
I know. Jade, I thought you meant as in, like, a symbol, as in, like
an ampersand or something.
Like, yeah, a plus, an ampersand. I was like, wow, that's very metaphor. I don't even know I don't even know what to do with that information.
No, Lewis, like, a symbol.
Yeah.
CYM.
Sorry, what was that impression of a symbol?
I don't know.
Do it again.
No.
Roll back the tape.
I'm trying. Hold on, let me try. Is that better?
Oh, very good. That sounds very much like when you were allowed to use the keyboard in music lessons, and you'd put it on the percussion option, and you'd find that
that's much better. See, Lewis, Emma and I did not go to years of
years of theatrical training.
I was going to say, we're doing our best here.
We're lucky when Emma can say people's names correctly. So.
True.
Her own name, other people's names, sentences.
Anyway, that's what I think he eats. I think he eats symbols with a C.
Liza with a Z! Emma, did you have any highlights at all during this ballroom sketch?
Not particularly. I think probably not particularly. I would probably say, Animal's dance partner was probably the highlight of the sketch, to be completely honest. Yeah, it was pretty dry this week. Pretty dry.
Counting down the days until we never have to visit this place again.
The one thing I just want to say quickly is last week, I think it was last week's episode, but anyway, a recent episode where we discussed the ballroom sketch, I remember saying about that new pig that's appeared, and I think she is obviously the replacement for Piggy because it's Richard Hunt puppeteering that pig. So I think that little new female pig Muppet is the Miss Piggy ballroom replacement, because they have finally realised that Miss Piggy deserves better than the ballroom.
You say that, but I feel like we're going to go to episodes.
She'll be back.
Yeah, and then suddenly...
Yeah.
a Richard Hunt voiced Miss Piggy is just going to pop out of nowhere. I take nothing for granted in this first season. We went to Muppet Labs and there was no beaker. Miss Piggy changes her voice within an episode. And Gonzo disappears for weeks on end. He's probably gone to an artist's retreat.
Gonzo is still so missed from these episodes.
I did love his little beat at the beginning where he hit into... Oh, what was the name of that?
It was Beautiful Day Muppet,
Beautiful
wasn't it?
Day Monster.
Yeah, Monster.
Yeah.
But then, and then just disappears. He must be in an artist's funk.
How did you both feel when Lassie suddenly appeared on screen in a small frame on a piano for the UK spot? Because I honestly was so taken out of the episode. I was just like, why has Rolf got a picture of Lassie on his piano? And then when the song kicked in, May You Always, which I didn't really recognise. I don't know if
No,
you two
I didn't.
know it. No. All the stuff about like having a special face and loving. I was like, I kind of get what they're going for, which is just that if Rolf's singing a song, he's singing a song about a dog. But I just
Why is it a real dog?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
so weird.
It makes me question everything. I was so confused. Why would it be a real life dog? Why is it not another puppet dog? Also, does that canonically mean that Rolf is also gay? Because is Lassie a boy?
Oh, good question. Let's check.
I feel like he is. I don't want to assume gender.
No, Lassie is a female.
Ah.
Sorry, Lewis.
I thought we were going to get Rolf as another... swipe another Muppet for our... our queer narrative. No, and then when the other puppets came in, why was it 2 dogs and a cat? Why was it not a third dog? Why?
Also, the cat is called Cat Gut, which
What?
I know.
Wait, no, as in what? I don't... Say it again?
Like, I think you say it Cat Gut. It's CATGUT.
Catgut. Oh, like cat gut your tongue.
Oh, maybe you say it like that. That makes more sense.
Catgut.
Yes. I hadn't even thought of that. I was so disgusted by the idea of,
Well,
like, guts.
the years of improv. You keep all that stupid stuff filed away in your head.
Yeah, Rolf got into it. It was kind of fine, but it just, definitely a UK spot. Again, I feel like the audiences in the rest of the world did not miss anything by having Rolf crooning at Lassie.
They were busy watching television adverts for Starsky and Hutch.
They were busy watching Avery Schreiber Doritos adverts.
Yeah.
I can't. Part of me wants to kind of YouTube them, but the other part of me really never wants to see Avery Schreiber again.
I did watch 2 because the first one I watched, he was dressed in that sort of Centurion gladiator garb again. So then I wondered if that was the character that they were using. But then the next one I watched, he was judging a cheese contest and he wasn't dressed as a gladiator. So that was just a coincidence.
Good.
And then I was like, right, that's it. I don't need to watch anymore. It's fine. I'm done.
When you find yourself in a YouTube hole and you're like, why am I watching a ride through of It's a Small World? I don't even enjoy this ride in person. Now I'm sitting on my sofa watching it. How did I get here?
I watched 2 Jack Burns and Avery Schreiber sketches and was like, yep, I get their entire shtick now. That's fine. That is also done. And I watched 2 Doritos adverts and I was like, yep, I know who this man is. I do not need to watch anymore.
Got it. Yeah. Although we did then have to get to know him, actually we didn't really get to know him at all during the chat segment either, because it was entirely being led by the subplot of the runner.
I did feel like we got a slight insight into his soul because it opened with him stroking Kermit in a very, very peculiar manner. I don't know if either of you noticed that.
Yeah.
I did. It was upsetting.
It was really upsetting. Did not like it.
And we've seen some handsy guests on this show.
This
was not Connie.
This was not cutesy. Yeah, it was not cutesy Connie Stevens. Yeah. Like, it was, I don't even know. Like, it looked more like a Bond villain stroking a cat or something. Like,
It felt like
I did not like it.
It felt like the kind of thing that you do to a partner when you're trying to discreetly put your arm around them, but in your hand on their back, you're trying to tell them some kind of message about either somebody that's approaching you in the party or trying to tell them to shut the fuck up. The latter is usually, for me, to be fair, where Peter is tapping my back being like, stop talking. But the former, where I have to prepare Peter to be like, I don't think this person likes me, so just embrace yourself.
We've found out more about you from this talk spot than we did about Avery.
Yeah.
Lewis.
It's a gift to turn any conversation about any topic back to myself, but it comes very naturally to me.
Congratulations, Jenna Maroney. Emma, what? Any other thoughts on the
Any
talk
other
spot? I mean, I
thoughts?
feel like we kind of touched on it with the backstage stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, like you said, I think it was kind of quite a random talk spot, I thought. And I thought Piggy was quite funny when she came in and then she called Kermit El Todio or whatever it was. That was quite funny. And then like Kermit falls for it and says, right, we're going to dinner and we're going to this and we're going to that. But then, yeah, it wasn't the best talk spot that we've seen.
It was also a slightly odd final joke to land on as well at the end, where Avery Schreiber is Jewish, so he has never touched a pig, so he declines a kiss from Piggy, and then Piggy punches him in the face.
I know.
It's just... it's just very bizarre. Like,
Is it anti-Semitic?
like, exactly, that's why I'm like, what? Well, everybody seems to be consenting to this. And he makes the first joke about having not touched a pig, but then for the pig to then actively fight back, I don't know, you could probably, it'd be a bit of a stretch, but I feel like you could write some kind of, I don't know, like, diatribe from that. I don't know. It was very, very odd.
I guess...
Quick question.
Oh,
go on.
well, I was just thinking that we've already talked about several times on the podcast about them playing up Piggy's pigginess. And I feel like, obviously, nowadays, not only would you not make that joke because of it potentially being seen as anti-Semitic, but also because actually Piggy's pigginess is not at the forefront of her character.
Yes.
All of her other characteristics are. But again, it just feels like they could have avoided that entirely if they just didn't bring up the fact that she was a pig. She could have asked for a kiss, he could have given her a kiss, end on a different pun.
I mean, I'm never going to say no to Piggy karate chopping someone. It was just a very odd... It just... Look, anytime you start making jokes around Jewishness, I don't know, like... because I am not Jewish and because of, rampant anti-Semitism that still exists in our country, it always just feels a bit like, oh, was there not any other way to get to here without having to, like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, he could have still refused her kiss for any other reason. He could, I thought he was actually going to say something like, oh no, Kermit's basically told me to get out because I've been hitting on you. So he could have just refused it on the basis of, like, I don't want to make Kermit more angry. And she could have still karate chopped him. He did not need to bring up the fact that he's never eaten pork.
Ew. Now it just feels even... Anyway, let's just move on. It's so weird.
Sam the Eagle was back in his hype man role before.
But he's now, he seems to be losing faith in Wayne and Wanda at this point. What does he say as the curtain opens? Like, don't muck it up? Or
no, he went, get it right.
Yeah, he did. He literally, just before the curtain opened, he said, get it right. And I just thought that was great. That was so funny.
He's becoming a stage mom.
He is.
He's doing the choreography at the side of the, and in the wings.
He's got the camcorder like Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
I don't know how you both felt as well, but when Some Enchanted Evening started, I was like, we've already seen this with Bert. We don't need to redo this with Wayne and Wanda, for God's sake. Like,
and again, he got eaten by someone. That at that point feels slightly like force majeure. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Wayne and Wanda would be eligible to sue because other things are just, production mistakes or mistakes they're making. But for a monster to come on stage and eat one half of your double act does feel like you probably could be like, I feel we may be owed some money here because you are preventing our ability to earn a living.
I felt like it was more in line with what we'd said before about, like, it would be nice to see the Muppets actively sabotaging them. And it felt more like that. It felt like Gorgon Heap was like waiting in the wings to purposely misconstrue meat as eat and then be like, I'm having Wayne for dinner tonight, Like, I don't know, I agree, Lewis, like, it wasn't just a tree collapsing or the leaves falling down or the weather getting really bad. Like, it was a Muppet actively deciding to walk on stage during their set and eat one half of Wayne and Wanda. Like...
Emma, did you find the reappearance of Gorgon Heap as distressing as you found their presence in was it the Sherlock Holmes?
The Sherlock Holmes sketch.
Yeah.
I don't know, because obviously I knew who it was. I was like, okay, this is where we're going. But I was like, it was still weird, especially right at the end where it seemed to take a while for like his feet to go into the mouth. Didn't
Yes.
it? They were like just sat there, and poor like Wanda was like, oh. It was really weird.
They had to cut to Wanda because it was taking so long.
I've got a really great idea for Wayne and Wanda. We should see their PTSD counselling sessions because everything that's happened to them. No, but like, I just think that would be like, it would be so amusing to actually watch and sit there and process everything that's happened to them. Like,
so I just saw the mark on my little Audacity screen just fully go right off either side from that. That was supported by my diaphragm. That noise. That would have hit the gallery. Just the idea that they both give up on show business, and I don't know, Wayne becomes, I don't know, just like a geography teacher, and Wanda, I don't know.
She should become a seamstress because I'm pretty sure she's the one making her clothes and they are still lovely week after week.
I can't see any costume designer deciding to attach themselves to Wayne and Wanda. It's not like, when Jean-Paul Gaultier is like, please, Madonna, wear this. It's like, they'd be like actively grabbing their clothes away from her, being like, don't you dare.
Don't touch this.
Get off. That's not for you.
It's time for Veterinarians Hospital. Yay!
Emma, what did you just say?
I don't
did you
know.
not even say the word
Veterinarians.
veterinarians,
I
right?
know.
I think you put a G in there.
I know. I don't know. It's Veterinarians Hospital. Vegetarian Hospital. Although that wouldn't really work because the whole thing was like based on gags around a chicken this week. But yeah,
no chicken fricassee in the Vegetarian Hospital.
We went into Veterinarian's Hospital and we kind of had the like piggy opening gag of her using some sort of medical tool, and this week she was plucking out her eyelashes, which was a little bit random.
I wasn't sure if she was meant to be plucking her eyebrows rather than her eyelashes.
Maybe eyebrows makes a little bit more sense.
But it wasn't clear because also Piggy doesn't have any eyebrows.
No.
So...
Yeah, it was
and
a bit
this week
random.
It was Dr. Bob just drinking out of that silver goblet.
Oh, I know.
I can't work out if it's some kind of medical instrument that we're not recognising that they're just using as a glass, because it genuinely just looks like a silver cup, and it's so specific. Like he's been given an award and decided to fill it up with
Maybe he
gin.
has. Maybe he's been given an award.
I don't think Dr. Bob is a celebrated physician.
Emma would give him awards.
Yeah, I love Dr. Bob. But yeah, I don't know. I did think like this one, it was good, but I don't know about you guys. The gags were a little bit lame this week. Like they weren't like the caliber of what we've experienced before, and it felt a little bit laboured, to be completely honest. It just like, especially after last week's one with like Kermit and being involved, and it was just a really like high quality sketch. I just thought it was a little bit below par this week. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was really disappointed by this. I felt like
You do sound very let down.
I am, because I think like although we sometimes moan about the punning and stuff, typically Veterinarians Hospital hits the mark. And even though it is all about wordplay and misunderstandings and that sort of line of humour, it normally does it really, really well. And this week, like, I don't know, I was genuinely disappointed in it. I don't know if I even laughed one time other than... No, I'm not even sure. I was going to say, did I even laugh at Piggy plucking out her eyebrows? But I was confused because she doesn't have eyebrows, so I don't think I did. Like, the whole thing about chickens and the whole thing about him being a bird dog and flying south for the winter and his arms being sore, and it just felt so predictable and like nothing original or that you kind of didn't see coming. The only things that I was like, actually, this is completely in keeping, was when Dr. Bob asked for a moment of silence because the joke died in the operating room. And then at the end, when the chicken called the sketch a turkey, I was like, yeah, you're both dead on. Like, this is terrible. Get off my screen.
It does feel a little like the writers knew this was not
Bad.
a good one. So
Yeah.
they would just chuck in a couple of jokes at its own expense, which, fine. But you know things are getting a little desperate when you have to joke about the sketch being bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't up to the usual caliber, for sure.
No, it was a shame, actually. I did think it was, especially like you say, Lou, the caliber of them have definitely improved over the last few episodes, and it kind of sank a little bit with this one, which was a shame.
I just don't understand, especially when you've actually got I know the guest isn't normally involved in Veterinarian's Hospital, but actually when you've got someone like Avery Schreiber, he probably would have been quite well used in something like Veterinarian's Hospital. So,
and considering what we've got coming up for his third appearance, I would have much preferred him to turn up in Veterinarian's Hospital than whatever guff he was doing on that guitar. But we will get there. Because before that, we have to take a step backwards with Fozzie Bear. Where his relationship with Statler Waldorf, again, I get that that is the shtick, but he felt a bit pathetic again. And then when Avery stepped on, I wondered if we were just going to get a retread of the Bruce Forsyth, you know, suck it to him. And to be fair, for the rest of that sketch, I did not mind it. I enjoyed their back and forth. Did anybody else find out what the little moment where they go, yeah.
Well,
what is that referencing?
It's referencing Jack Burns and Avery Schreiber's bit.
Right.
That's why I sent you the sketch.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Oh, I can tell. Emma, did you watch it?
I started watching it, and then I had my password issues, and then I was panicking.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Okay,
but
I would like to know that I made an active choice not to watch it.
Well,
because...
if you had watched it, you would have seen that was very much part of sketches that they did. That back and forth.
Because I've seen that exact yeah on The Simpsons, and I didn't know what that was referencing either. And obviously, you know, so I was like, oh, it's that same reference again. I wonder who it's for. So it makes sense that it was actually Avery Schreiber. But I didn't know if they were making a joke at his expense or at an even earlier sort of double act.
Well, I mean, it might be that it came from another comedy duo.
Yeah.
But the sketch that I sent you to, which for
I'm sorry that I didn't watch it, Jade, okay? I didn't even sit down to watch this until 40 minutes before we were recording the episode. I have a very busy day.
Do you, Lewis?
Shut up!
Well, anyway, yeah, so I don't know, maybe it might be that Burns and Schreiber nicked that from someone else. I'm sure they probably stole plenty other gags from other people. But yeah, I think this was a direct quotation marks nod to the Burns and Schreiber double act that people were familiar with.
Yeah, there was a lot. And because of that, it was hard to engage with because, well, particularly us who don't bother watching the links that we're sent, we have no idea about what Burns and Schreiber are like as some kind of double act. And so then when you've got a bunch of in-jokes about it, it's like, great, it's a hat on a hat. And I don't like either of the hats.
I didn't mind this bit on the whole, although I do agree that I think Fozzie felt a little bit like... I didn't think he felt completely sad sack, but it did feel a little bit like he didn't have that confidence that he'd had like at the end of the Bruce Forsyth episode, for instance. I did think that like the in-jokes and the fact that it finished with like the "See Jack" like and everything, it felt very kind of insidery in a way that the Muppets never, or like certainly up to this point, hasn't felt like. And also even when they do the winks to camera, it's normally something that the audience is definitely going to be in on. This almost felt like, like a bit meta or a bit like
indulgent.
Yeah, like it was strange.
I don't like them in the occasional time where, Jim Henson himself might pop up, like washing dishes in a Muppet Family Christmas or something. That feels fine to me. But to have your characters referencing a writer on the show then takes it... I'm being taken out of it too much. And I don't like it. I don't like thinking about the writers of the Muppets. I want to think about the Muppets. Because they're people. They are real. And it's not that I don't dislike meta humor, but I just don't like it for them.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit like you say. It's like nice when you have like the little Easter eggs and things, and it's kind of like a nod to something. But yeah, like you both said, it did feel kind of a little bit overindulgent, and the fact that it got mentioned a couple of times as well, it was a bit like, didn't add anything to the sketch or anything. I mean, I didn't think it did.
No, and to be honest, if they did really want to like harp on about Jack Burns that much, he could have come on at the end of this sketch or something. Like there could have been... Also, I don't know how famous they would have been in the UK at that time. Like, yeah, they went on like Ed Sullivan and whatever, but how much of that was actually shown in the UK or even around the world? So these like insidery jokes about Jack Burns throughout the episode, like, and you don't even see him. How many people would have even known that he was the head writer on the Muppet Show? I mean, that's still like today.
I'm sure as heck not staying to watch the credits. So
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, Jake. Because obviously, we can do a Google or Wikipedia, and find out about this information. But also, I'm now thinking, we wonder if it was almost being used as a bit of a showcase in the UK for Avery? Because would people have actually known who he was over here?
Yeah, and because also Kermit's introduction of him at the start was like he's trying to go it alone.
Yeah,
it was really like it really wasn't burying the lead, was it? Like it was.
No.
It was very much sort of like he's hoping this is going to be a winner. Like.
Do you know, it almost felt a bit like Jack Burns was like, okay, so I've broken up the comedy duo. I probably owe him something. Let's chuck him on a show.
An hour with the puppets.
Yeah.
I suppose it's the equivalent of who the hell in America was going to know who Bruce Forsyth was? Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, exactly.
True,
exactly.
Who the hell is going to know who Bruce Forsyth is? So maybe it's kind of like one for them, one for us. You know what I mean?
No, that Bruce is a fair shout. He did have some sort of pop culture-y references and a bit of meta humour and everything, but it was all stuff that people would have understood both sides of the Atlantic. Whereas, and I just don't know. One, I don't know if anyone cares about Jack Burns in Britain anyway. But also, like, did they even know he was head writer? Like, did anyone know he was head writer? Because
we'll never know, I guess. We're not going to look it up. So. And I've got to say, if this is meant to be the showcase for Avery Schreiber to jump out into a solo comedy / music career, this closing sketch with him just hoobity-boobity on the guitar while some colourful Muppet creatures sort of surrounded him, who reminded me a lot of the Hoobs.
A little bit. It was the Cusbanian pups and the Mel Cusbane.
I recognise the Cusbane babies because they're adorable.
Yeah.
Some of them were apparently called Fazoobs, which I've never heard of before.
That sounds like me ripping off the Hoobs with something that I'm doing, like
a
straight to video kind of. They're called the Fazoobs.
And then the blue bird, his name is Mel. And which I recognise him. I don't know whether we've seen him before in the series so far or whether it's just that he's a Muppet who's still bumbling around somewhere. I just want to say, Lewis, very quickly, you missed the Muppet Newsflash.
Well, there wasn't a newsflash, as in...
No news tonight!
No news tonight!
And I hated it because I barely got to look at my gorgeous man's big old nose.
I knew you were going to complain about that. I knew you were going to moan.
What's the point? And obviously Avery clearly can't do accents, so that's another strike against him for going out solo.
Yeah.
I was going to say, there was no accent showcase, was there?
he saw that Peter Ustinov episode and was like, no, I just can't. Like, I can't live up to this. I'm gone.
But I don't know about you guys. I mean, it felt, obviously the last episode we watched with Candice, and obviously she had a like closing song, and she wasn't particularly happy, as we discussed in it. It didn't seem she was really enjoying herself. And then again this week, like, we have another song ending the show, and he's not actually singing. He's kind of like scatting. He's like ragtag Muppets in the background. Like, I don't know if it's more because it's meant to be a bit of more of a skit kind of song, and him trying to show his personality and everything else. But I didn't really get it.
But what's the skit? What's funny or entertaining about this? Like, I've seen live scat singing in a jazz bar, and that's interesting. This was just stupid. I literally wrote, the Hoobs, I hate this. He seems exhausted.
I thought this was really cute.
Oh, for God's sake.
Honestly, like, I did not like him in his, like, gladiator centurion mode. I did not particularly, like, there were other sketches like Veterinarian's Hospital that I found really disappointing this week. But this was just him, a song that he made up, which is literally called Make a Song, surrounded by some like alien type Muppets who are joining in and singing it. Like, it was cute. It was fine. It was fun.
It screamed filler.
But
I'm sorry. I know I'm being really down on this episode.
I would honestly rather have filler that's like that than some of the sketches that just...
Oh, I'm glad we didn't get another sketch.
Well, exactly.
I'd like to make it clear. I'm glad we didn't get another sketch, but I would have rather have looked at an empty screen for 2 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
A test card, just have a thing that says the Muppet Show will be right back, and then just silence, and then like a little fun cartoon of like Kermit, like his hands up on his head, looking around at all these plugs and switches, and realizing that something's not connected. Like, that would have been genuinely more interesting.
Lewis, I think you just lost your patience with him by this point, because I think definitely not my favourite thing or anything. But if he's going to sing a song, he's obviously probably got a particularly great voice or whatever. They didn't try to make him do something like, Emma, exactly like you said, like they did with Candice Bergen. At least he obviously did something he was comfortable with, and it was fine. It brought a smile to my face for the end of the episode. Like, I was like, yep, he's done his song, fine.
Well, I was smiling because I knew we were near the end. I don't know if there's any more to cover about the goodbyes. I don't know if you had any strong feelings about how this ended, or if we could just move straight on to our rankings.
I thought it was quite funny, the Statler and Waldorf button on the end where they said that...
No, I did see this. You've
got to give them credit. And they were like, why? Because they're going to keep doing it until they get it right. I was like, that's just like...
Well, again, very on the nose. Very on the nose with this episode. Oh, yeah. I think it might be time for us to do some rankings. But first, we need to decide on our most valued Muppet performer, otherwise known as our MVMP. Emma, why don't you start us off?
Well, this week, I think my most valued Muppet performer is going to be Fozzie for the Art Museum sketch. I just thought he was, like we kind of discussed when we were talking about it earlier, he was really on point. He was really funny. His reactions were really great. And he just played it really, really well. And I think he outplayed Avery. And I just think it was really nice to see him doing something a bit different and not kind of the same old Fozzie bit that he does. And for that, he kind of stood out for me, in amongst kind of the different sketches and songs that we had in this particular show. So yeah, I think this week my MVMP is going to be Fozzie Bear. How about you, Jade?
I found this quite difficult because I don't actually feel like there was a particular Muppet who really stood out to me as the most valued Muppet performer in this episode. They all had a fairly decent sort of stretch of screen time each, but I don't necessarily know if there was one who jumped out at me. But on reflection, Emma, I've gone with Fozzie as well, and primarily for the exact same reason as you, because of the art museum sketch. I just really enjoyed seeing him do something different, and I think you've put it perfectly in terms of, like, he outplayed Avery. Even in that final sketch between them, he was able to bring a really solid counterpoint as part of a comedy duo, and I just think he yeah, it was nice to see him actually land some jokes, get some good physical visual comedy in, and not necessarily rely solely on puns the whole time. But I don't know. I was really struggling to actually find someone who I felt like deserved my MVMP award for this episode. Lewis, how about you?
I had the exact same feeling. So I'm basically just going to say Dr. Teeth, because I liked seeing him again, and I liked how his gold tooth was so shiny. There you go. That's, there we are.
There
That's
we are.
It.
So Emma, where are you going to go for your rating for this week?
Oh, I don't know. It's quite a difficult one this week because I do feel like we've kind of gone back a little bit, and it is a bit of more of a like middling episode. So I think for this particular one, I'm going to give it 5 out of 10 Sir Avery of Machos. I just think it's a bit of a mishmash of like songs and sketches. Some bits are really good, some bits are really bad, and I was let down by Dr.
Dob?
I was let down.
Emma, that's
I don't know what's going on
I feel like
today.
we need to get you into an MRI scan at this point. Like, this is some real
I know.
No, fine.
I don't know why I can't speak today. It's not going very well. Sorry, guys. As I was saying, yeah, I was kind of let down by Dr. Bob in Veterinarian's Hospital. And I just feel like some of the sketches were not good. Like, you know, we don't particularly enjoy At the Dance, and like the whole kind of banana in my ear with the whole like Jack Burns in joke was just not good. So yeah, this week it's going to be a 5, Jade, I'm afraid. How about you, Lou?
I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to mark it the same as you or lower, basically. And I think I'm going to go for 5 alarming gorillas / gorilla alarms out of 10. So the literal gorilla alarm, and also the gorilla that scared me climbing over Emmerich. There was just so much here that I didn't enjoy for various reasons. It felt such a mess. Although there was like a nice through line, I didn't enjoy the through line anyway. Sketches weren't working for me. I didn't particularly respond to the guest. There were a few moments, but a lot of it I was just like alarmed by his mustache, or like his energy. I just didn't like his energy, and his style of humor just doesn't work for me. So I think I was always going to be a bit of a loss with this episode. So yeah, I have nothing more to add in my criticism that I haven't already made abundantly clear over the last hour. So I'll just move it on for the sake of levity and brevity. Jade, what are you giving it?
I think I did enjoy it ever so slightly more than you two, although as a whole, it's definitely not up there with my favourite episodes at all. So I think I'm going to go with 5.5 heartbreaking gorilla invasions out of 10. Because I think there's some episodes that I've definitely enjoyed less than this, and there were certainly moments in it that I did enjoy. I have to give props to the runner, because I do think it did a very good job of making what was actually quite a scattered episode have a sense of cohesion. And it's also just nice to see Piggy, because if she hadn't have had the runner, she wouldn't have been in this episode at all. So, you know, it's just nice that she's getting that screen time. I think all the stuff around, you know, the Burns Schreiber comedy duo, and actually a lot of the sketches didn't necessarily work as well as we maybe would have liked them to. And I suppose in a way, a lot of the issues that we have with the Jack Burns style of writing are going to be exacerbated in this episode, because it's his comedy partner who's in it. So I did not go into the episode with high hopes anyway, but actually I think we can all say that it was exactly as kind of middling and as sort of disappointing as we had maybe expected it to be.
Fair point. Jade, why don't you wrap us up with a little Muppet philosophy for this week?
So rather than do philosophy this week, I thought having Avery Schreiber on the episode was a good opportunity to read a little bit from Jim Henson, the biography by Brian J. Jones, about the writers of the show, and specifically about Jack Burns. We're coming into the latter half of this season. Jack Burns is only the head writer for the first season, and we've touched on that, but I thought it might be interesting to dive into that a little bit deeper. And also because, as we've been saying and joking about, Jack Burns I don't think is particularly well known today massively, and also get that sense of how the Muppets performers and Jim Henson and everyone felt about Jack Burns, and also some of the reasons why he didn't work on the show beyond the first season. So I will read from the book. So
The good book.
The good book. The good book. The Muppet writers each had different strengths and writing styles that would shape both the show and the characters, sometimes through trial and error, as the show progressed from year to year. Writer Don Hinckley had a knack for puns and verbal wordplay, and was, in the minds of many, the funniest guy in the room, while quick-writing Mark London, a veteran of Laugh-In, was a workhorse who wrote straight-ahead comedy routines, like the soap opera spoof Veterinarian's Hospital. Head writer Jack Burns understood how to put together a show, though he tended to think of episodes as a series of roughly strung-together vignettes with no underlying story gluing the episode together. Instead, regular routines like Veterinarian's Hospital or At the Dance, in which couples waltzed past the camera and told jokes, were mostly just pushed together, giving the shows a rhythm but no cohesion. That would change in the second season, with the removal of Burns and the promotion of Jerry Jewell to head writer. Jewell's first order of business: we phased out the ballroom dancing thing,
Yay!
said Jewell. Partly because everybody hated to write for it, and everybody hated to perform it. It was boring kind of writing. Pointless one-liners, no character, and no motivation of any kind. For Jewell, the former Muppet performer, it was character and motivation that mattered more than puns or vaudeville-style jokes. A predilection Jim and the puppeteers appreciated. And then a little bit later on in the book, it goes on to talk about the reaction and the sort of critical appraisal, as well as then talking more about Jim Henson and Jack Burns' relationship. Local reviewers were enthusiastic. "If you have a child or ever were one," wrote the Chicago Tribune, "you ought to watch," while the Louisville Times raved simply, "Long live the Muppets." But though it was widely watched, the show wasn't an immediate hit. More typical was the review in Variety, which liked the first episode, but found the humour rather ho-hum, astutely noting that the material bore more of the head writer Jack Burns' touch than the wry, whimsical Henson type of humour fans are more familiar with. Jim wasn't concerned. "We are well on our way to a smashing success," Jack Burns had written to Jim in a private memo at the end of July, and Jim was inclined to agree, though he didn't always agree with everything Burns wanted to do with the show. Jim had scuttled a suggestion from Burns that the writers play up catchphrases and specific quirks to help viewers more quickly differentiate between characters. That was trying too hard, in Jim's opinion, and would ignore Burns' objections to refilming the show's opening credits. While Jim and Burns respected each other, friction between the two was increasing. Besides serving as head writer, the strong-willed Burns was also serving as producer during the first season, and that, said Laser, was hard for Jim. Jim needs to be in the role. Burns would eventually be fired by Bernie Brillstein after Jim complained tactfully to the agent that Burns gives me a stomachache. But it was never personal, said Frank Oz, and Jim would continue to collaborate with Burns on other projects over the next decade.
Well, good riddance to Jack Burns and to his jam partner Avery Schreiber. That's all I have to say on the matter. Thank you so much for listening to Muppetsational. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, as it really helps spread the word about the podcast. You can follow us on social media. We are at Muppetsational on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can contact us at hiho@muppetspodcast.com, and you can find out more about us and the podcast at muppetspodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. If you like Avery Schreiber, don't at me. I won't care. I've been Lewis Chandler.
Please send all complaints to Lewis. I've been Jade Turner.
And I've been Emma Chandler.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on another episode of Muppetsational!
Bye!
Bye!
Our theme music is Peppy Pepe by Kevin MacLeod, and our artwork is designed by Charlotte Rudge, who you can follow at Charlie_R_Rudge on Instagram.